We were told from the very beginning that we were free. The idea was planted in our minds like a sacred truth, that we had choices, that our lives were our own, that we could shape the world with our decisions. But as we grew older, we began to notice the invisible walls around us. Freedom, it seemed, had fine print. We were free to choose between options already chosen for us. Free to speak as long as no one powerful felt threatened. Free to live our dreams as long as they fit neatly within the system's design. The illusion was beautiful, convincing, and addictive. They gave us slogans about liberty, flags to wave, and anthems to sing, and we believed that was enough. We became consumers before we became thinkers. We were taught to measure success not by character or wisdom, but by possessions and image. The world convinced us that happiness was for sale. A product we could buy if we worked hard enough, if we stayed obedient enough, if we kept quiet long enough. Every choice we made seemed free, but every option came from the same shelf. The illusion of freedom became the most successful product ever sold. We stopped questioning who was really in control. We accepted the rules written in small print, hidden beneath our comfort. The powerful didn't need chains or whips anymore. They had advertising, entertainment, and fear. They didn't have to tell us what to do. They just had to tell us what to want. And we wanted everything they offered. The job, the car, the screen, the validation. We built our cages with our own hands, decorated them with our own dreams, and called it progress. The system didn't just trap us physically, it colonized our minds. We learned to think in patterns that benefited others. We became suspicious of independent thought, uncomfortable with silence, and allergic to truth. The more noise they made, the more distracted we became. We learned to chase after things that didn't matter and ignore the ones that did. The illusion of freedom was not a lie told once. It was a story repeated every day until it became our reality. We were told that democracy gave us power, that every vote was a weapon, that our voices could shape nations. But the same corporations that sold us soda and shoes sold us politicians too. The same hands that controlled the markets controlled the laws. We didn't choose leaders, we chose between brands. And as long as we believed the illusion, the machine kept running smoothly. The masters never needed to hide. They stood on stages and smiled, and we applauded them. Our schools didn't teach us how to question. They taught us how to comply. We were graded on obedience, rewarded for memorization, punished for curiosity. Creativity was rebranded as rebellion, and rebellion was rebranded as danger. By the time we entered the real world, we were already programmed, ready to serve, ready to consume, ready to believe that the cage was freedom and the noise was truth. Every generation was promised something better, a better life, a better world, a better future. But all we got was a more comfortable illusion. The chains became lighter, softer, made of gold instead of iron. We called that progress too. We convinced ourselves that because we could speak, we were heard. Because we could vote, we were powerful. Because we could choose, we were free. The truth, however, was that the walls never moved. We just learned to decorate them. And as the world celebrated its freedom, we quietly forgot what it really meant. They didn't need to silence us with fear or violence. They only needed to keep us entertained. The trick was simple. Give people noise, endless noise, and they will never hear the truth. The circus was built not in tents, but in screens. Not with lions and clowns, but with influencers, politicians, and distractions dressed as news. We became the audience and the performers at the same time, feeding on the spectacle, hungry for the next big thing, blind to what was happening behind the curtain. The game was never to hide the truth. It was to bury it under a mountain of meaningless content. Every day became a performance. We started living not to experience life, but to post about it. Our thoughts were shaped by trends, our emotions timed with notifications, our worth measured in views and likes. The world turned into a giant stage where everyone competed for attention, but no one remembered why. The circus kept us laughing, crying, scrolling, anything to keep us from thinking. And when someone tried to talk about reality, about corruption, about control, they were called negative, boring, or crazy. That's how effective the circus became. The media learned long ago that outrage sells better than truth. They turned every issue into entertainment, every tragedy into a headline, every lie into a debate. They trained us to react instead of reflect, to judge instead of understand. The more divided we became, the easier we were to control. The circus didn't just distract us, it turned us against each other. We argued over illusions while the real power moved quietly in the shadows. The stage lights blinded us, and we mistook the glare for clarity. Politics became a season of a show, scripted, dramatic, and predictable. They gave us characters to love and villains to hate. And we followed the story like fans of a series. We watched debates like boxing matches, not realizing that the winners were already chosen. The goal wasn't to inform us. It was to entertain us just enough to keep us believing the game was real. The politicians performed for cameras, the media sold the drama, and we bought the ticket every 4 years, proud to be part of the illusion. Meanwhile, the real issues, the decay of education, the manipulation of money, the destruction of the planet, faded into the background. We were too busy following scandals, celebrity feuds, and viral nonsense to care. Every second of attention we gave to the circus was a second stolen from awareness. And awareness, they knew, was dangerous. A distracted population is easy to manage. A thinking population is not. Technology became the perfect ringmaster. The algorithms learned us better than we knew ourselves. They discovered our fears, our triggers, our desires, and fed them back to us like treats. We became predictable, programmable, docile. The circus didn't need whips or chains, it had dopamine. Every scroll was a leash, every like a pat on the head. They gave us a stage and told us we were stars, and we believed it. When George Carlin warned us that they own you, they own everything, we laughed because it sounded too cynical, but the laughter was part of the act. Comedy became prophecy, and prophecy became ignored. We thought he was joking about the circus, not realizing that we were the main attraction. The truth had been turned into a performance so cleverly that even the warnings became part of the show. We lost the ability to sit in silence. We couldn't stand stillness because it made us face ourselves. The circus had trained us to fear our own thoughts, to run from discomfort, to fill every quiet space with sound. We became addicted to stimulation, mistaking it for living. The more we consumed, the emptier we felt, and the emptier we felt, the more we consumed. It was a perfect loop, a self-sustaining illusion powered by our own attention. And through it all, the clown smiled, the lights flashed, and the audience applauded. Now the warning signs are everywhere, and yet most people pretend not to see them. The cracks in society have become too wide to hide, but the show must go on. The noise is still loud, the distraction's still shining, and the truth still buried under convenience. The price of silence is becoming heavier each day, but we keep paying it willingly. We choose comfort over clarity, routine over reflection, illusion over awakening. We tell ourselves everything is fine because the alternative, admitting we were deceived, would mean facing the emptiness we helped create. We were warned over and over and over again, but we laughed, shrugged, and scrolled. We built our world on denial. Every time someone tried to expose the rot beneath the surface, we turned away. It was easier to mock than to understand, easier to joke than to act. We built systems that rewarded ignorance and punished awareness. People who questioned authority were labeled troublemakers, conspiracy theorists, pessimists. We learned to silence truth-tellers not with violence, but with ridicule. And slowly the few voices of reason that remained began to fade into the background, drowned out by the endless noise of entertainment and self-indulgence. The signs of decay were all around us. The air grew heavier, the water dirtier, the food emptier, the hearts colder. We noticed, but we didn't change. We complained, but we didn't stop consuming. We blamed the system while feeding it every day with our attention, our labor, our loyalty. The very machine that exploited us ran on our cooperation. We kept pressing the buttons, kept working for promises, kept believing that somehow it would all get better. Hope became a sedative, not a solution. We hoped things would improve on their own, but nothing ever does on its own. Truth became uncomfortable, so we avoided it. Instead, we created comforting lies to live by. We told ourselves that the world was too complex to fix, that corruption was inevitable, that greed was human nature. These excuses became our shields against guilt. We forgot that every broken system survives because good people convince themselves it's not their problem. The price of silence wasn't just political, it was spiritual. We lost our connection to meaning, to empathy, to each other. We became isolated souls trapped in digital cages, mistaking connection for communication and validation for love. The powerful didn't have to destroy humanity. We did it for them by surrendering our attention. They didn't steal our freedom. We traded it for convenience. We accepted surveillance in exchange for comfort, censorship in exchange for safety, distraction in exchange for peace of mind. Every trade felt small, harmless, temporary. But the total cost was enormous. Bit by bit, we gave away the essence of what it meant to be human. Curiosity, courage, compassion. We replaced them with fear, apathy, and endless scrolling. The silence grew deeper as the noise grew louder. We saw the suffering, wars, poverty, injustice, but we treated it like another form of entertainment. We watched tragedy the same way we watch comedy, detached, passive, unfeeling. Our empathy became short-lived, our outrage temporary. We moved on to the next story, the next scandal, the next distraction. We became spectators in a collapsing world, clapping at the flames. George Carlin once said, "You have owners, they own you." We laughed because we didn't want to admit it was true. It was easier to treat truth as satire than as reality. The education system that was supposed to liberate minds became a factory for obedience. The media that was supposed to inform became a tool of manipulation. The institutions that were supposed to protect became the guardians of profit. And through it all, we stayed quiet. We adapted to the absurdity until it became normal. The extraordinary corruption of our age became background noise. People learned to survive in it, not fight it. The more things fell apart, the more comfortable we became with the chaos. Technology promised to connect us, but it only deepened our loneliness. Surrounded by screens, we became strangers to one another. Our conversations became shorter, our thoughts shallower, our hearts harder. We learned to speak in fragments, to feel in emojis, to live in highlights. And we forgot how to listen, not just to others, but to ourselves. Silence, once a place of peace, became unbearable. We filled it with noise because we were afraid of hearing the truth that lived inside it. Those who still remembered what real freedom felt like tried to warn the rest, but they were met with apathy. People didn't want to wake up. They wanted better dreams. The prophets of the modern world spoke into microphones, not pulpits, but their words were met with laughter tracks and comment sections. The revolution that was supposed to begin in minds ended in memes. The truth became a trend, and like all trends, it faded quickly. We began to measure morality not by integrity, but by popularity. People no longer asked what was right. They asked what was profitable, what was viral, what was safe. Principles became outdated. Sincerity became weakness. Every truth was filtered, edited, monetized. The line between reality and performance disappeared. The same people who cried for justice posted selfies an hour later. The world was collapsing, but as long as the lighting was good, no one cared. And somewhere in the noise, the voice of reason still echoes. It's faint now, like a memory from another time. The words that once made us laugh now sound like warnings carved in stone. The freedom we once took for granted is slipping through our fingers, not with a bang, but with applause. The silence we chose has grown into a storm, and the illusions we worshipped are beginning to crumble under their own weight.